Hi, I'm Sulin. I'm a women's hormone naturopath and I work with natural fertility. And if you're coming here and looking at this video because you're struggling with infertility or perhaps things are just taking too long, and I feel for you and I hope that this video helps you. The truth is nobody wants a complicated fertility journey. So I'm going to tell you a few things from a naturopathic perspective that can reduce your fertility potential. I have other videos as well, which are looking more from a scientific and evidence-based perspective that will tell you what the research says. But I want to give you the naturopathic perspective because that's what I do, and imagine that that's what you've come here for. So one of the first things that is important to address in infertility is your gut health. Because the gut is where in our body we take things in and we process them and we detoxify them. So there's not only taking in the nutrients that are required for fertility and pregnancy, for birth and mothering, but also the ability to remove what we don't need so that we don't get a buildup of toxic materials in the body. Your gut is composed of all of these organs running from your mouth down through the throat and stomach, through the intestines, the stomach, intestines, bowel, and so on. So it's that whole channel which opens at the mouth and opens at the anus as well. So you've got this channel through the body. And that channel is where you're either going to absorb all of those essential nutrients or you're not going to absorb them. You're going to flush them out, or they're going to end up going back into the bloodstream. So this is really important. We want to make sure that you are taking in the nutrients from what you're eating. One of the conditions that a lot of naturopaths will look at is called leaky gut. So leaky gut, another way, I think perhaps a better way of explaining it is that in your gut lining, you have a mucous membrane layer to all of those gut walls. So these are the walls that sit on the outside of your intestines and even, your stomach and throat and everything. Your esophagus, etc. They all have this mucous membrane lining, and it's just a wall, but it's more than a wall as well. It has to filter, it has to take things in, it has to protect. So if you get infections and things like that, it has to keep the infection out of the gut. So the moment that you start getting damage to those walls, you can develop this condition called leaky gut. And one of the most common conditions that is associated with leaky gut is celiac disease, where you have gluten intolerance or gluten allergy, in fact, gluten allergy. And you can actually have a very inflammatory response to gluten, and it can wear down those gut walls. There are other conditions as well beyond the scope of this video, but if you do know that you have difficulty digesting your food, or if you get a lot of bloating, if you get a lot of loose bowel motions, if you have abdominal cramping after eating, and if you produce a lot of gas in your gut, then it's worth looking at your gut health and talking to a naturopath or a functional medicine practitioner about how you can assess what's happening in your gut membranes, and see if there's some issues with absorption there. Because the other way of looking at it is you could spend a lot of money on all of these amazing supplements, but not even be absorbing them. The important minerals to absorb are things like zinc, magnesium, and they are also important for supporting your gut health. So if you happen to be deficient in zinc or deficient in magnesium, it not only affects your fertility health, but also affects your gut health and your skin health and other things as well. There are lots of really important vitamins too, and you might like to have a look at my other video on ways that you can improve your fertility, and I go through some of the vitamins and minerals there that are essential for fertility. So another way that you can impact your fertility adversely is by eating too many trans fats. So this is the time when we look impartially at our diet and we just think critically about how much sugar are we eating, how much refined carbohydrate is present in our diet. And with these trans fats, they're usually labeled on food labels as TFA, trans fatty acids, but they're fats that our bodies just don't recognize, and our liver doesn't know how to break them down. We don't know what to do with them, so we just put them into storage. And one of the ways that you can tell that you've got too much of that in your diet is if you're starting to put on fat weight. So people will often say, I'm putting on weight. And I tend to think about weight as whole body weight, including really good weight like muscle protein weight. But there's also fat weight. So that's what you've got to look at, is that you're starting to get more cellulite, more fat deposits. Are you getting, extra tire around the belly or an extra tire around the back of the arms and that sort of thing. So sugar, refined carbohydrates, and so on. We know from research actually that a high sugar diet is associated with infertility in studies, and naturopaths certainly would look at high sugar diet as being 1, pro weight gain, 2, inflammatory, 3, starting to interfere with hormone levels like estrogen, insulin, also brain function, brain fog, thyroid function. So we know that sugar's not a good thing, and that's something that I would immediately suggest that you do. Just look at your diet. First step, just try and make it more savory. And then the next step on from that is try to make it more vegetable-based, plant-based, and the meat that you eat, really good quality meat, organically farmed, grass-fed, animals and those sorts of things if you're a meat eater. There is a third way that you can reduce your fertility potential. And again, this relates to diet. So the good news is that this is something you can change as of today if you want to. Eating too much saturated fat in foods, and I'm talking about foods like butter and cake, sausages, cheese, bacon, biscuits, cured meats. These are all great examples of saturated fat foods. There are lots more, but that's just a start. I would look at the diet and just take out anything that fits that description of being high in the saturated fats. One of the ways that you can also tell your body's not liking it is if you eat these foods and you feel really full, really bloated. You don't have to feel bloated, but you might. And some people will get a little bit of nausea, just a tiny hint of nausea. Just that the liver is saying, that's enough. I can't handle all of these fats. Just give me a break. So I hope that that's helpful for you. And I also want to just remind you that naturopathically speaking, we know, in fact, scientifically speaking, we know it takes about 100 days to positively impact your fertility health. So if you're thinking of starting to try for a baby and so on, just give yourself about 3 months on a preconception program. You can get in touch with me. I can work with you on getting a protocol together that suits your chemistry, your genetics, your metabolism, your environment, your lifestyle, and your needs as well. Maybe you're vegan, maybe you're plant-based. So we can work on a preconception program that's going to work for you, and I'll teach you all sorts of things about how to assess your fertility yourself. But do give yourself that 90 to 100 days. This goes for the men as well. It's around about a 90-day cycle to improve sperm health and start to see those changes coming through. I wish you the best on your fertility journey, and I thank you also for listening in. Hope this was useful. Stay in touch. Comment below if you do have any comments, and look for me on the socials as well for shorter videos, advice and tips videos. Have a wonderful day.